And now the real journey begins. We are off. Hitting a 2 on that chicken is always a good sign that things are going in the right direction. White Knight of FALADOR. Now, prerequisite, before we even get to FALADOR, FALADOR is a really nice place. Wealthy people live in FALADOR. You walk around FALADOR, everything's crystal, beautiful, white walls everywhere. There is absolutely no poverty in FALADOR. There is no collapsed buildings, no rats attacking you, no dogs following you through the streets. FALADOR is a beautiful place, and you clearly need to work up before you can get into that city. So right now we're going to go ahead and, go through the typical labor and toil of any one of the days and go get your pickaxe and go to the mines. Lumbridge mines, perfect way to start off. Obviously surrounded by the dweebs here in Lumbridge. We do not want to be associated with them for too much longer, but however, we'll go through the typical grind as needed to start the necessary quests. Now, as pursuing quests within the FALADOR area, and after this point, once we get into FALADOR, we're essentially locked unless a quest gives us permission to go to another area. And right now, we are looking at the Knight Sword and Doric's quest as two of the particularly more important quests that we will be keeping in mind. And the reason why these are obviously very nice is you get the Blue Right Sword, which right off the bat, if you are not aware, gives you at one attack the equivalent attack bonuses of a steel longsword without needing 5 attacks. So the Blue Right Sword actually isn't just decorative. At level 1 attack, it has its advantages, especially for early level training, and also being able to get access to that level 30-ish smithing early on gives you a very quick money maker as an Ironman. And that is definitely going to be a major theme to this account, because within the region, crafting, mining, smithing, really big deals. Something we talked about early on this journey is, the question of Berthip. Berthip is obviously in Asgarnia, but it is not necessarily friends of the White Knights. Now, anyone who has studied the literature knows that Sir Armic Vars has taken control over the White Knights, or one of the Sir White Knight guys. I'm just reading this off the dome. I don't like to read a script when I talk. I just like to talk. So anyway, one of the leading White Knights, ultimately, the king was too old, stepped down, and the White Knights essentially just took over. Military essentially just took over FALADOR. And clearly Berthip, the leader of Berthip, was the son of the king of FALADOR. So clearly that is the rebellion. Those are the dissenters, and they are the ones who clearly need to be destroyed. Berthip is not necessarily friends to the White Knights. Perhaps we'll consider, through diplomatic means, working with them if needed, perhaps an attempt to try to win back or undermine the efforts of the son of the king, but however, they've clearly gone to great lengths to resist, so we must make it a means to destroy them. But anyways, that amongst many other things, this character's responsibility is also to destroy the Black Knights. Anyone who is an enemy of the White Knights must be destroyed. And the White Knights' enemies, because they fight for good, and there are plenty of evil in RuneScape, plenty of evil to be destroyed, even evil that doesn't know it's evil. All of the evil to be destroyed by the White Knight shall be destroyed. And so this character, though, will have access once it is permitted, once they have gone through certain prerequisites, like getting to the highest rank within the White Knight Order. That's about 1,300 kills. And that would give access to the wilderness. And the wilderness is where we can start fighting some of the enemies that have higher level drops, some of the bosses, some of the creatures that are going to be some of the first opponents early on in the game. And as the game is progressing, God War's dungeon will be accessible. We're really going to try to keep the script limited. The FALADOR Knight is going to be obviously a maybe by some people's perception superstitious devotee to Saradomin, but nonetheless loving that Saradomin bling. Will not pass it up, even might kill an ancient Saradomin general in order to get their things. It's all about being sure you leave the corpse off on a distant planet like the moon, and then coming back and say, they tragically fell, it was horrible, but now I'm here to share their last words and take leadership control of the organization, that type of stuff, White Knights are, on the surface level, portrayed as these very, very, dignified, right? But as you explore Gielinor, you see the White Knights up to some fishy stuff. Like, they're not just the squeaky clean characters. They're clearly trying to grab for control. They're clearly trying to take over a complete society, and so they are expanding their kingdom, and any resistance, anything of the old royalty will be destroyed. How I see this is like if in an alternative reality, something like the Templars successfully were able to overthrow the nobility of the times or something like that. We're looking at the FALADOR Knights as being an order unto themselves for themselves, and they are going about pursuing those who are against them. All dissenters shall be destroyed. And in order to start destroying the dissenters, we need food. We need shrimp. Why? Thurgo likes red berry pies. In order to give Thurgo a red berry pie, I gotta have a higher cooking level. So we are here catching those shrimp, because that is what we've got to do. Now maybe this spot is obviously better. Clearly excruciatingly slow. Clearly. Yeah, so these grinding parts can be what they are. So right now, doing a little bit of fishing grinding just to help level up cooking. I did, fast forwarding a little bit, did go ahead and, be the cook's assistant. When you look at cook's assistant, if you think about it, because helping Sir Armic Vars is part of the White Knight questline, if you're looking at it from a recipe of disaster standpoint, and that is something that definitely can be kept in mind as further progression rewards. All things, as long as it can be tied back to the White Knight universe or Asgarnia in some way, unless it's working with those birthed up people, they need to be destroyed. We might even get some white claws to show them who's boss. You think you've got cool claws? Now we've got white claws. They've got a prayer bonus. Prayer bonus, people. That's the benefit ultimately of this character design. I want to make a character design that isn't just depleted, actually has some fun things to it. Often prayer armor is overlooked. Prayer items are overlooked. People optimize for damage but not prayer. Prayer with a combination of defense, and obviously magic defense requires a magic level, is what actually makes a lot of people very protected, makes it hard to hit them. And if your goal isn't necessarily to be PKing, these are actually pretty essential things. You need to be able to tank hits from high-level enemies. It doesn't even necessarily matter if you deal damage slowly. If you can take the hits and you can do the necessary in-game movements, tick manipulation tricks, things like that. Stepping into the space of an enemy that takes up more than one space, stepping out, things like that. There are various tricks, safe spotting, whatever. All these various tricks in the game that are tools that the White Knight can use to help have leverage. This is by no means just some silly barbarian who we also don't like. Again, anyone who is not willing to submit to the White Knights is an enemy of the White Knights. They are not a friend. They are not meant to be easily associated with. If they are not a member, they're not welcome. Very, very exclusive group. If you are not a White Knight, you are not welcome. You're not a friend, you can't be a buddy. You ain't walking on to FALADOR to go to a clothes shop for anything. You hate the smell of these cows. You can't wait to get away from them. But you just have to go get this bucket of milk for this ridiculous cook who you might perhaps need help from later because he's somehow summoned some sort of culinary ghost by accident. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So something that I actually learned on this part that I thought was actually pretty interesting is that at the mill space, you can actually, I always thought you had to, when making flour, put the flour in, grind it, and go take the flour out and empty it. I thought you couldn't bulk do it. So you had to do one at a time. And then I was like, wait a minute. I did one, and then later I went back. It's oh wait, when I had to do the red berry pies, because of course I was at this phase I wasn't thinking far enough. I was just get the cooking level up. I was oh man, I needed to make more bread. So I eventually needed to go back, and I was wait a minute, I should try this out. So that's something that really cool that came up on this. It was interesting. It got the game going. I'm already at this point. I'm editing footage and going through and doing these discussions, so on and so forth. I'm already actually a little bit further into the game, so going back into the recordings, talking back on this, it's really funny because this is really clearly the fundamental bricks, but the fun of this gameplay really does pick up fast. I didn't give a lot of time to training. this character is more focused on doing the quests. And so doing the quests at the lowest level possible is going to be a big deal for this character. So this character isn't going to just train to max, stats and then go do quests. It's right now, for example, all the Knight Sword quests, level 3. Black Knights, I had to do Goblin Diplomacy, and so I had to fight some goblins to get goblin armor. So that leveled strength up a little bit, but kept attack at 1, defense at 1. Goblin Diplomacy, because you need to get the quest points to do the Black Knight's quest. That's something that's going to be coming up soon. But really trying to keep the character minimal. Really not trying to go too crazy with trying to pre-train. Like, only leveling up when it's time, like, all right, we earned the white scimitar, the white sword, whatever. It's time to go get it. It's time to go move on to that next spot. So that's something that we're keeping in mind in this game mode, is that we're not trying to be... How do I put it? We're not trying to, with this game... we're trying to make it so that it's not easy. This game, over time, a lot of people, I think, would agree, has become easier. And though I don't think that's necessarily bad, I think it just requires a little bit of role-playing or different commitment level to make the game more challenging. I do feel Jagex has done a really good job actually advancing, releasing new content, releasing new options for people who want different game styles. RuneScape is a game where if you want to play it, like a chat room, you can. If you want to play it at a slow pace, you're just happy to be there, you can. If you're the people who are ready to drop kick people at RuneFest, there's a spot for you. I don't think you really should do that, so please don't take that literal. Please don't go to RuneFest and drop kick someone. You will not be welcomed back, I would assume. So anyways, I really feel this game offers a little bit of everything for everyone, and I feel that raising 3 children right now, my focus in life is not to be grinding to 99 in every skill. It's to be enjoying one of my favorite games at a pace that I want to, with rewards that are obtainable, but given handicaps so that those rewards are not too easily obtainable. If the best sword you have for a while is a white sword, it's really gonna not make your boss fights that easy. It's very easy to just do Lost City, and get something like the Dragon Dagger and then just go destroy a bunch of these low-level easy bosses. And doing a bunch of quests early on with very minimal stats, it kind of reminds you that people take for granted their grown characters because they can take hits. Low-level characters doing quests with minimal requirements cannot take hits. So this stove is clearly helpful. It's not something I think after we enter FALADOR, we won't be using that stove until we help Sir Armic Vars with the recipe for disaster aspect, and that is what we'll use to say, okay, you're allowed to use the Lombard's chest, for say cooking ingredients, using the stove. But you can use FALADOR Lombard's Castle, but don't want to be amongst these plebs at the general store for too long and whatnot, and these cow lover people, clearly they don't do a good job keeping away the people who disrespect their cows. They don't do a good job keeping the goblins out. At least in Asgarnia, they just keep the goblins to mostly honestly like Mudskipper Point area, a little north of that, west of Port Sarum. East of Remington has some, but not really a lot, and they're really weak. It's not a really big problem. FALADOR clearly better than the Varric area. Varric area is very so you get the point. Is a lot better at keeping control of their beasts, their problems. No wonder, you almost can't blame the humans against monsters for not liking goblins. You literally can't enjoy a walk with probably a goblin throwing some fecal matter at you and laughing and challenging you to a duel. That is not a desirable way to live. That is not the way that you want to live your life. You do not want goblins constantly trashing your environment, trashing your yard. That is not the way to be. It's not the way to go. It's not the life I want for my kids. Definitely not. For example, those, as long as you keep running, those magicians can't kill you. I remember as a little kid playing this game, if you were low leveled and you weren't ready and you just kind of panicked and ran in too many different directions, I think the thing that kills most little children who play this game is auto retaliates. You try to run away, but then something like a magic bolt makes you come back. Alright, so here we had the privilege of being able to make some pies. I got really lucky. I successfully cooked the first one. And I was like, oh wow, it must be really easy to make these things. Who knew? And I was like, alright, well, I might as well just go make a few other ones. Then we burned the next. I think we were able to successfully make two. We made two successfully. Yeah. Accident. There we go. Grand exchange. Oh, endless commercialism, no loyalty, no chivalry. What's wrong with these Varric people? Yeah. Of course I'm too good enough. Not good enough, Mr. Chef Guy. I don't even want to walk near those barbarians. Filthy monsters. Horrible. This bank, so underkept. Is that dirt on the floor in this bank? Gross. Absolutely gross. Cannot believe it. So, moving things along. Got some quests to do. Moving things along. Certain quests require certain items. For example, like the iron bar is needed for the Knight Sword. As an Iron Man, the only way to get an iron bar is in the wilderness. Now, of course, silly me is just like, oh yeah, I know where that graveyard of shadows, whatever is. It's all the way over here. It's at that graveyard near like the altar where you get that super awesome prayer experience rate. And then I looked it up later, and it's like, nah, you're completely wrong. It's on the other end of the wilderness. And I'm like, not even into the wilderness. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm almost dead. I just entered the wilderness, and those dark mages almost killed me. And now I'm like at the point where I still haven't realized I'm in the wrong spot yet. And so I'm trying to like tiptoe around like all these monsters, these bears. There's like some free coins. I'll snag those. Why not? You know, when you're like level 3, running around the wilderness, it really does help to like return that joy. It makes it super fun because it gives you like that panic without like that fear of like losing the stuff that you've given like the equivalent of like a 9 to 5 40-hour-a-week job to get those items. It's not like losing those. It's like, oh well, it's gonna run back over. So yeah, I was like, oh, at this point, oh, well, damn it. I just wanted to see what he had for capes, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting out of here. If I die, I die. It's not the worst thing that could ever happen. But yeah, so I had to run through the wilderness, dodging all these things. I was like, oh, here's the boneyard. It's like some decent free prayer experience. I'm like, oh, wait, of course, there's all these high-level monsters. And then I was like, alright, here's the tricky part. I have to get this iron bar. This iron bar was guarded by so many bears. So many bears were protecting this iron bar. I had to ninja my way through it, go back. Then I was like, alright, well, I'm not going to just sit here and wait. I'm typically trying to stay on World 333 if you want to hang out. World 333, I'm White Boots. You'll probably catch me lurking. White Boots, around World 333, alright? But doing some ninja moves to get these iron bar. Oh, spawned right on top of them. You know, took the hit. Alright, got away. I was like, I am clearly not fighting that bear. Gonna hop. See if I can ninja by these bears again. Like, again, this is what I think brings fun back to the game. When people are so caught up with maxing, it takes the fun out of the game. Being a level 3, almost dying to bears, brings as much of a thrill. Look, I got the iron bars I needed to make myself a blue right sword and to make the knight a blue right sword. So yeah, epic time for some epic pictures. Next to the fallen Saradomin knight, epic photo moment. Good for future ambitions. I've heard that it's actually like if you have like a statue of like an ideal form you want to achieve. I've heard a rumor that if you keep a statue of something that you want to be like in your room, you will become it. Energetic. It's like a mental exercise. So seeing that statue is very important for the Aspiring White Knight. Now this is, I've looked it up. The monastery, because this will be our entry point to the wilderness, the monastery is part of Asgarnia. Asgarnia includes Entrana, It includes the monastery. When you go on the RuneScape wiki, I looked it up, Antrana is considered part of Asgarnia. And so therefore it is an area we are allowed to use because it has position and place on the continent. So if you go ahead, you can check it out on the wiki yourself, but it is included on it. So now we are finally beginning our White Sword quest. Alright, clearly this fool somehow lost this invaluable sword. And clearly it is our job to solve his problems. We are the Squire of a Squire at this time. Alright, so we gotta clearly go do a lot of running back and forth. The true joy of this game. Absolutely delightful. Alright, running through. Evil, horrible barbarians. They must be destroyed. We're only going back to this pitiful place because we needed to discuss things with apparently the only literate person in the universe. Can't believe despite all of FALADOR's money, they can't just hire a decent librarian. I have to walk my butt all the way over to here. All the way over to here. Absolutely exhausting. Just because you got a ponytail doesn't mean you're smart, dude. It's got like that typical like philosophy studies kid who thinks he's smarter than you look. Alright, so making moves. Running through. What's going to be nice is when the respawn point further down the road can be changed to FALADOR. This guy has haven't made an account since this guy's been released, so I wanted to just take some time to look around. So I go, this is why everyone has these backpack things. And here's this silly shield that does nothing. And so yeah, I didn't have, clearly the game has evolved a lot. And lots of things have been added to this store that have not used to be there. Like I remember seeing like these like goblin items being added. Like I remember a lot of people were like using them to take advantage of like the splashing. But yeah, going over to visit our favorite dwarf. You know, this dwarf has the smithing cape. So a really cool thing about Asgarnia is you got the prayer cape, you got the smithing cape, you got the mining cape. Again, technically we do have the attack and the strength, but I think we're not going to use the Fighters Guild because they're just rebels. They're a bunch of mercenary rebels, and we do not smile upon such ill-dignified folk. So the Fighters Guild, a lot of people think, well, that's some area for great content. I think that the Dragon Defender does go outside too much of the gameplay storyline, and it is too overpowered for the character. The character is not meant to have what I would call, quote-unquote, overpowered gear. The Dragon Defender, for how strong it is way too easy to get in the game. And again, you're not trying to join the Fighters Guild. The Fighters Guild is clearly, or the Warriors Guild is clearly, not aligned. Like, it's like you can't be with both entities. I think a really cool idea. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Having a character who's built around Berthip and the Fighters Guild being like a really big deal. And that helps to unlock a character who has really controlled, because of the minigames, very controlled stat types. Because there are certain minigames that let you train your stats without health points. So again, let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Would love to hear. Yeah, we'll rant about, because I feel like sometimes I haven't been to the FALADOR Castle in a while. Can feel like you got to do the loop around. Quite a bit of running around to figure it out, but I'm sure if I do it enough, being a white knight, I'm going to figure it out, right? It's like, I'm a squire of a squire. I only know so much, all right? Give me a break. Now on the walk back. Okay. Those wizards don't want to hurt me. Another thing that is added in is the construction skill is viable within the area as well. you have 2 house portals in Asgarnia. Taverly, the druids, though they're pushovers and we don't have any issue bullying them around, they aren't necessarily the dissenters. They're the hippies. We don't like the hippies, but they're not the enemy. They're the annoying person you want to kind of shove out of the way on your much more important business. Now, the dwarf who clearly wanted a red pie and would tell me ancient secrets for a red pie, very easy to manipulate this dwarf clearly, has told me I need to go into this cave, past these degenerate pirates, hobgoblins, abominations from RuneScape hell. And, you know, these dudes hit pretty hard and came pretty close to killing me, honestly, during this. And I was like, oh man, how do I, trick them? And to make it so like they both leave me alone. And then I think I got to a point where I was like, I was able to get one on one side. And then I got that one stuck. The other one I don't think was in the aggro on that side. And so it wasn't able to get me. At that point, I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to sit here and wait. I don't want to risk, switching worlds and have it be like an issue. I got to collect enough blue right here so that I can have a copy of the sword for myself and the Squire. And of course the sandwich lady comes through at the perfect time to give a tasty snack. Always an advantage. Always beautiful. Okay, now going further. Knight sword. Get him one Knight sword. Drop it. Talk to him again. I think there was recently an update where you can remake the blue right sword. And so I didn't know. I read it after I did this. But it honestly saves me a little bit of time because I don't need to go back to the dwarf. But I was so scared doing it later. I thought, because I was scared I was going to die during a certain quest. I didn't die at that point, but I was scared I was going to lose my blue right sword because it was in an area where if you die, you don't get your stuff back. But I realized that you can actually now, some of you might not know this, but you can make blue right swords now as long as you have the requirements. It used to be you cannot make it unless you duplicated it before the end of the quest. So now White Boots has worthy boots. On the way has a worthy sword. So thank you for tuning in for episode 1. Would love to hear your feedback in the comments on the series. Thank you for tuning in. Let's watch more soon, friends.